So I think now what I'd like to do is just to guide us through what we're going to do this morning and the process involved. Very shortly, I'll hand over to Franz here, who will actually chair the interactive session between the heads of delegation and the representative stakeholders. We'll be obviously reflecting on the programme for this event. We're very conscious of the global education is something that concerns all walks of life. And those of us in government obviously have an important role in global education, but it's also part of the mainstream, part of our philosophical DNA, that the efforts require the broadest possible consultation right across society, and indeed across the continent and at a global level. So the declaration that we will adopt today tries to capture that urgency of the present situation, outlining many of the challenges that we face. It makes the link between global issues and regional, national and local responses, making the case for solidarity, for individual and collective engagement and action. It also contains commitments that, once implemented, will put global education on a firmer footing in all our countries. But of course, all of this will require a broad-based engagement right across society. And for that reason, we thought it was important to begin our second day with our stakeholder friends at the table. So for the next 45 minutes or so, we'll have an opportunity to hear from representatives of civil society, youth, academia, and global critical friends who have accompanied and contributed to the drafting of the declaration. So I invite heads of delegation who wish to do so, maybe to offer reflections on the stakeholder input. Once the interactive session has concluded, the heads of delegation from the participating countries will have an opportunity to speak, setting out their thoughts on the declaration and on the evolution of the global education in their country. And then obviously we will move to the centrepiece of our gathering, which will be the adoption of the declaration. And finally, as heads of the delegation, we're going to then move from this room and we'll be rejoining the other participants in the Congress in the Printworks where we were yesterday, and that we'll have a brief closing ceremony there, which will bring our Congress to a conclusion. There's also down at the for that closing ceremony, we're going to have a brief musical performance. So just before you all leave Dublin Castle, you could hear some hopefully very enjoyable music, and that will let everybody back out into Dublin if you're staying around for a while to enjoy Dublin for the rest of the day, or to go safely on your journey back home. So, but for now and for this moment, I'm going to hand over Franz to let him take over for the rest of this session.
Thank you very much, Minister, dear Colm, and good morning to all of you, also from my side. As the Minister has just said, we will now start the interactive session between the ministers, heads of delegation, and the stakeholders, with the idea to have an interactive dialogue to exchange on the declaration and also the declaration process. Now the floor will be given in turn to each representative of the different stakeholders categories, and because this should be an interactive session, it will then be open to policymakers for any further questions, comments, or responses to stakeholder statements. And there might then be, time permitting, a final round of comments from stakeholders. But for this to be possible, I would kindly ask you to keep your statements and interventions quite brief and address three elements, which would be first, the process of the elaboration of the declaration, secondly, the core of the declaration, and third, the commitments and the future. So I would like to then start with the first stakeholders, which are the youth representative, to make your statement. I understand that will be Anja Fortuna.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you, Jean, for the process, and Luxembourg and Ireland for hosting this. And I would now give the floor to Raresh, who was the core representative within this process.
Yes, thank you so much, Anja. Good morning, everyone. So About our process, well, we first convened our youth group around this time last year, and we worked with over 15 youth organizations from all over Europe to try to make this declaration, to do our best to make this declaration as representative, relevant, and, well, to the point for young people as possible. So we had very lengthy meetings every single month. We contributed to every single draft of the declaration every step of the way. And now we are here today at the final conference to, well, ask for the declaration to actually be implemented and ask that every single provision pertaining to young people and not only is implemented, and to ask for what Anya will tell you a bit about in a couple of seconds. But yes, essentially to have us, young people, at the center of every step you make towards global education. This is a commitment we ask you to make. We see that it is possible to have young people at the table. We're not that scary, I promise. And yeah, I think we can actually, this gives us a bit of hope that we can actually mainstream this and make it happen. Anya?
Thank you. We as young people, but also as youth organizations, are committed to working on implementation of this declaration ourselves as well. We have a strong network of young committed people. We have mechanisms that empower young people, but we need your support and we need your commitments. We would like to have a clear roadmap of how this declaration will be implemented, and also ways of how young people will be meaningfully engaged, particularly through youth organizations that do present this representativeness and democratic processes within our structures. We believe that every one of us is accountable to make this happen. We're sure that with putting all our resources, our commitments, our motivation together, we can really make sure that this declaration is implemented by 2050. Thank you from our side.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this. I would propose that we have the all four stakeholder groups and then collect collect the questions and then react in the second round. So I would now call on the representative of the civil society organizations to make their statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, ministers, distinguished delegates. Really happy to be here. Thank you very much for inviting us to be part of this journey. And because I'm saying the journey, I think that it's one milestone here where we are at the moment, and there's really the next phases to come. And that's why I think that it's very, very important that we have this milestone here coming together and really looking for how to move on together. Because I think it's very, very evident at the moment that we need to have the transformation happening in the societies, including the education. The time is absolutely challenging all of us, but it's great opportunity at the same time. The solutions, how we would like to go on from this point, is that we need much more about the whole of the society approaches. So where not only the governments can implement the education policies, but it's also all of us who are, as members, active citizens, as a part of the societies. We definitely need to learn and unlearn. We need to find the good solutions for the future. We can't really copy-paste the systems of what it used to be. Definitely, of course, everybody has to have the basic skills, but we need to be much more innovative collectively in the future. We also need much more coherence. So we need to have much more coherences on what the others are doing. So the information flow, communication between different actors is really the key, that we really know what is going on the other side, and we can complement, we can find the common solutions, we can fight, we can have the dialogue, but definitely I think the goals are the same, and that's why we need to really be on updated what's going on there. We need to definitely have the link on the global policies like Agenda 2030, especially for the SDG 4.7, which is really fundamentally important for all the planet, for all of us. It's really recognized finally the importance of the formal, non-formal, and informal education, lifelong learning, and we should definitely celebrate about that success. We would like to really hear and see the commitments from the governments enabling the environment for all the actors, because it's not very equally important. Like, for example, in Europe, we have quite a lot of work to do, but it's really better situation comparing for the many other countries and globally, where exactly the democratic opportunities to participate is really shrinked at the moment, and that's the government, especially from Europe, can do a lot on that, enabling the environment for different kind of voices in the societies. Of course, the resources is the key question. It's not only the financial resources, it's the human resources as well. Collectively, we can really learn much more, and we are committed from our side to really share our human capital also on the same journey what we are doing together. So we are committed as well from the civil society side. We promise that we will be the critical friends as well. We are taking all roles what we are having. We are not only the implementers, but we are also the real actors and really moving the societies. We do hope that everybody is finding active citizens amongst themselves and being the relevant actors on that. We also would like to have the clear roadmap, which I think that helps all of us to also coordinate the action points, because we are doing our work through our networks as well. And if we can really be in line and knowing that what's going on, then I think that we can really have the better success. But I really thank you for this process and very much appreciate about this opportunity to share our thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this. I would now like to call on the representative of the local and regional governments, Dr. Simeon, Mrs. Lour Fernandez Salinas.
Yes, thank you very much and good morning. Thank you very much actually for the invitation and for the lovely evening as well yesterday. We are indeed representative of local and regional governments. As you may have heard yesterday, we are policymakers, we are implementers, and we are also gatherers of the local communities. So for us, it was very important to be involved for the first time ever in this process to the declaration. So we are very happy about this. I will let my colleague Lour, she was very much involved into the process. She will comment quickly on the process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So just to say also thank you for the kind invitation and for being able to exchange today with you, because it's also the key component of a joint declaration. So to complete on the process of the declaration and how local and regional governments have been involved, it was also after a memorandum of understanding signed between GE, and I think this is something to highlight, because it shows that the declaration is not just a text and a final step for us, is also the beginning of a new working plan to really have a territorial approach to global education. This is something that we were discussing about yesterday. And the process started a bit later than other stakeholders for us, but it shows also that the reality for local and regional governments might be a bit more difficult when it comes to engage in, for instance, pan-European consultations. But local and regional governments have been doing global education since a lot of time with other expressions, and depending on the territorial also approach and richness of the country. And it has been a lot of meetings between our partners, and other stakeholders with a lot of rich exchanges. And in this sense, we see some commitments in the declaration, but we hope to see also more commitment in the future. Yes. And I let the floor to Marianne.
Thank you very much. Now, maybe just to add that on our side, so we work with national associations of local and regional governments, so across Europe, not only the EU actually, but also beyond, and also directly with local governments. We link also global education to international cooperation. So this dimension of partnership, also of peer learning, is very important to us. And in this commitment with the declaration, we would like actually to continue in this coordination between the European level, the national level, and the local level. So what we would ask maybe is to have this clear roadmap, not only at European level, but also at national level, so that we can engage our national association in the process so that they can contribute from the perspective of local and regional governments to the implementation of the declaration. So that would be very important for us to be able to be involved into the monitoring and reporting and all the steps in the implementation of this declaration. So yes, I would stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. And finally, I would call on the representative of the Global Critical Friends, Mr. Andrew Tabura, Dr. Namrata Sharma, and La Salete Coelho. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Andrew Tabura. I come from Uganda in Africa. And maybe you're wondering what Africa is doing in a European conference. But the role that we play is of the global critical friends, like to say, a third eye from the outside looking in. First of all, like the other speakers, I would like to express my gratitude to Jean and to the European friends here for facilitating this kind of arrangement and making it possible for me and my friends to be at this. I try to confine myself to the areas that we have been assigned. The first one was to talk about the process. I think from the experience that I've had with different, because I work in my other life, I work with the Ministry of Education and Sports in Uganda as a Principal Education Officer in charge of teacher education. So I have been around about policy documents quite a few times. And what I see, and compared to what we went through during this process, is that this process has been really inclusive. It has been consultative, really consultative. I have known of documents where a group of people, regional leaders, and everybody's called into a room, and in 3 hours they're presented with a paper, and everybody says, okay, here it is, group photo, and that is that. But in this case, it took nearly a year to consult and, really get the feedback from people. And I was surprised at the depth at which even our contributions, which maybe wouldn't have counted so much, they tried to infuse it into the document. So I was really impressed by that. And that's what I will say about the process and leave the rest to my colleague. Now, about the core, I have looked at this document, and it is a solid document, in my opinion. I will confine myself to a phrase which talks about working in solidarity with people globally. It is within the document. And what does it mean? It means working together with other partners in other different parts of the country, because, in different parts of the world, because essentially we are in one boat, whether you realize it or not. And we need to work to help each other. Now that Europe has taken this critical step, then we need also to bring aboard all the other countries and all the other regions to also follow suit. So I think, and I believe that this is one area in which we can foster partnerships through different ways that we could discuss maybe in future. About the future, I see if we follow what the document is spelling out, I see a transformation, a transformed educational system, which trains our learners and our teachers to be flexible and adaptive. When I refer to a session I think we had yesterday, somebody was trying to, maybe I'll paraphrase, he was asking, how can we make to get our curricula to keep in line with the changes that are taking place in the world? And in my mind, I said, well, that's impossible, because the changes, they happen so fast. And I don't know how it is in Europe, but in my part of the world, even to change a curriculum is a process in itself. It will take maybe 3 or 5 years. And by the time you make the so-called new change, it is no longer new, and then you have to go and do it all over again. So what we need to do is not to address the structures, the tools that we use, the curricula and so on, but rather to address the persons, the people. We change the human being, the values, make them adaptive, make them able to adjust. I'm a teacher and I know, well, maybe it's different here, but teachers, they don't like so many people to come into their space so often. We like to do our things, but we need to open up. Someone gave an example yesterday about when in Uganda, for example, when we had the COVID, we actually shut down the education system for 2 years. I think it's a record. I think 2 years. So nobody trained any teacher to handle that situation. But for somehow the teachers found a way to reach out to the learners. Somehow, within the small communities, some don't even have the resources, but they found a way to do it because they were given that challenge and they found an innovative way of addressing it. So it also speaks towards teacher autonomy, trying to give teachers more freedom to work within and utilize the resources and the intellect that they have to make changes and innovations. And I think this document speaks towards that. And so I would like to appeal to my colleagues in Europe to consider strongly to adopt this document so that we can use it as a standard to also do the same in our regions. I thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you again, to Jean, to the hosts, the governments of Ireland and Luxembourg, esteemed ministers, esteemed members of the audience, and friends. I think Andrew has very eloquently elaborated on the process. I must also thank Dr. La Salette Coelho for bringing us together, the global critical friends from diverse backgrounds, perspectives, and nations, to be part of this very intense process of deliberations and back and forth. Even amongst ourselves, we didn't always agree on various bits of the process as well as the content. But I think I can say quite happily that we are all very, very happy and fully endorse this document as it is right now. I would like to draw attention to this particular statement that Andrew as well made, which is in solidarity with people globally. And to us, I think, as global critical friends, it means that the commitments made in the Dublin Declaration at the national and European levels has a vision that calls for solidarity with people globally, placing global and social justice at the heart of education. We see this as a missing gap in the implementation of the SDGs worldwide. And so we very much are passionate and hopeful that this living, breathing document has a strong human rights agenda backing it. I just want to conclude by saying that the reflection process, was quite dialogical as well. It was self-reflective. It was reflection amongst us as colleagues in helping frame the declaration. And of course, expanding, from the process taken for the Maastricht Declaration by truly including this diversity and inclusivity. So we very much hope that you will include us. We are your friends in different countries and nations. We may be very far, but we are right here. You are right here in our hearts. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I would say thank you very much for the four stakeholders for their interventions. I think there is a lot of praise, I think, on the quality and the inclusiveness of the process across the board. I would say, but also on the document itself, on the call, on the values of the document, on the quality of the document as a whole. But also, I think that is maybe the main point now, a call for action, and also an invitation to keep you included in the process when implementing this framework. So thank you once again for your interventions. And I would now open the floor for responses, comments, reactions from the ministers and heads of delegation. I have a first call for response from the Minister of Education of Malta, Minister Grima. You have the floor.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for this marvelous opportunity. And I agree with regards to the process. It was a marvelous process, a process which involved the input of different stakeholders, a process which ensures that we together achieve a tangible and sustainable way forward in the education. Allow me to say that I feel honored to represent my country and endorse this declaration. As a country, we have been members of GE since the year 2017, years during which we continued to work and collaborate to ensure a world where all the people have access to quality education. And I'm sure that everyone here agrees that that should be the way forward. Indeed, we truly believe that access to quality education is a human right, something which we must think on. And thus, we strongly endorse this declaration, especially during the very particular times that we are living. We are living in a global village. And therefore, in my opinion, we have to use this document as a platform. We have to ensure that we are able to produce an education system that enables our children to dream. When I say enables our children to dream, I know that this is not easy. We are the product of our past, and we have to produce the future for our children. We have to prepare our children for the future. Therefore, it's not always easy to find the right formula, but in order to be able to do this, we have to move out of our comfort zone, and I think that the declaration is a step in the right direction. And above all, we have to move away from an educational system which uses the same measurement for each child, the one size fits all. Each child, each individual has his own full potential. We are not identical. Each and every one of us has his own qualities, his own potential. And in order to do this, we must stop making the distinction between formal, non-formal education. And we must move forward to an education system whereby the distinction is between a complete education system and an education system which is not complete. The complete education system ensures the full development of our children. The complete educational system ensures that we give the necessary skills to our students to be able to face the realities of an ever-changing world, an ever-changing society. And the moment that as educators or policymakers, we think that we achieved our targets in education, that is the moment we start losing ground due to the fact that society is ever evolving, and that's something which I would like to make an emphasis on. The ultimate aim of our education system should always be the full development of our children and ensuring access. Educators have a tough challenge in front of them. They have students in front of them which come from different backgrounds, different families, students with different potentials and availability to resources as well. Therefore, the implementation of this declaration, in order to ensure that we truly make a change in the educational world, is not an easy task. And we have to work together, different stakeholders, different institutions, different countries, in order to ensure that we reach all that. But these couple of days, I've seen the work, I've seen the input that my colleagues here, we are doing together. Allow me to call each and every one of you as our colleagues. And therefore, I'm quite optimistic that together we will be able to implement this declaration. I don't want to take long. I know that there are other speakers. I wish to express my sincere thanks to all those who worked tirelessly on the content of this document, the chair, co-chair, members of the drafting committee, the ministries, agencies from G member states, international organizations, NGOs, the host and co-host of this special occasion. And the final word of thanks and further encouragement to Annette, to Liam, board members, Secretariat of Global Education Network Europe for their continued excellent work to promote and improve global education towards the day when all people in Europe, in solidarity with people globally, will have access to quality global education. Very well done indeed, and thank you.
Thank you very much. I would now like to ask if there are any other interventions, specifically in response to the statements of the stakeholders. Yes, see Montenegro, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. It's an honor and a privilege to greet you all on behalf of the Ministry of Education from Montenegro, and I will just make a short comment. Global education doesn't recognize borders. That's why we appreciate the Africa joining us and giving us assistance in drafting and preparing the document. And education policy makers really need critical friends in the process if they want a long-term success. And since here we are not in marathon, but something similar to the running out of time climate ready race, which is about to end tomorrow and which started on 30th of September, I'm sure that today we are starting a new chapter and further enhancement of global education awaits. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this. I'm looking around. Sorry. Could you please identify yourself? And
I'm a student. I'm part of the higher secondary school. I'm very passionate. I worked on projects for a year on the education system, and I think my class was like it's not my place for me.
it is interactive, but this is a little bit. This is a little bit out of the format here. The idea is now to have a reaction from the policymakers, from the ministers and heads of delegations, and then maybe hand it back to final reaction from the stakeholders themselves. So I'm
sorry to interrupt, Minister, but I might encourage our young friend to talk to our colleagues, Besu in the Students' Union and also in Jean. We'd be delighted to have a chat with you later. Okay, thank you, Minister.
Yes, please, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Rolf Orij, and I will read a few lines on behalf of Aravella Zachariou, the chair of the Steering Committee on ESD of UNECE. UNECE Steering Committee is fully aligned with the vision, mission and objectives of the Global Education Declaration. And the Global Declaration fits perfect with the scope of the new implementation framework of the UNECE ESD strategy till 2030, which is based on 4 key priority stands: quality education, whole school approach, digital education, and green innovation and youth, which are also key issues for the Global Education Declarations. These 2 frameworks are promising and ambitious frameworks which operate parallel and together for all those that unite us as human, society and planet. UNECE Steering Committee committee welcomes the Global Education Declaration and commits that it will continue to work closely with Jean to integrate all that unite us and reflect to the vision for transforming our planet, our societies, through the transformation of the education. Inclusively, equity, democracy, solidarity needs partnerships. The Global Education Declaration is a value means for integrating ESD, and it's an important element to work together for achieving the transformation and reforms that education, formal, non-formal, and informal level, and let's add social learning to that, together for achieving the transformation. To aim at a just, prosperous, healthy, and sustainable society. Global Education Declaration is a declaration of hope, a declaration that reminds us that we are humans with empathy, solidarity, care for ourselves, for the other, and for the planet. This is the time to work together at this moment. Together we can, and UNEC will work hand in hand with Jean to fulfill the aspiration of the living, sustainable, peaceful, and democratic in harmony with nature and other living species. As I may add some lines on personal behalf, I was in Maastricht 20 years ago, and thank you for mentioning Maastricht, and especially one of my former colleagues, Henny Helmich, yesterday. I was one of the co-organizers from the perspective of education for sustainable development. And I found my sheets of my presentation 20 years ago. It was almost the first PowerPoint I ever made. So what has changed over 20 years that I still make PowerPoints, but that was the first one. And what I'm very pleased is that it is still actual. I could read this presentation and it won't be out of tune with what we're doing now. All the right ingredients are here. Interministerial cooperation, cooperation with other governments, multi-stakeholder approach, approaching NGO, and so on. What is different, I think, is that although we address formal, non-formal, informal education, in our daily speech, we speak a lot about children and about schools. And we have to be aware that education is also for us as an adult. We have to live by example, and we can't expect our children alone to change the world. We are part of that. And so full understanding of the sustainable development goals, not only the environmental part, but also the social part, is very important. I think the bottom line is learning to live together within the boundaries of System Earth. In my personal life, I'm a conductor of music, and Liam challenged me to sing with the audience like I did in Maastricht 20 years ago. But I don't think this is the place and the time to sing together. But later. but one of the comparisons is when you are a conductor, you can have a great composition. You have a fine partiture, and we have here with the declaration a great partiture. And we have fine musicians. We all are part of this orchestra. But there is still a danger of a lousy performance. And the issue of the singing together was, it is not about the singing, it is about the listening to the other, to be in tune and work in harmony. So as a conductor of music, I wish us a very pleasant and a very fine and in harmony and in tune performance of this declaration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this. And I now have intervention by Liam, who would like to respond to the civil society organizations.
Thank you very much, Minister. And I simply want to thank our colleagues from CSOs, and I have to apologize formally for not asking you to stand up yesterday. My list was lost, but your work in not only in this declaration, but also in the day-to-day work, not just of implementation, but as our critical friends. We appreciate your work and we thank you for your response. Our youth organisations and their voices necessary not just for the future, but the current majority. Any process that neglects youth is not democratic. We thank you for your process, and we commit from Jean's part to continuing the conversation. Local and regional governments, yes, we failed in Maastricht to include you properly. We hope we've done a decent job today, and thank you. And our global critical friends, we do commit to continuing the conversation that I know not only happens at European and global level, but also at national level, as our colleagues from ministries and agencies engage with your colleagues from CSOs, from local and regional authorities, also from youth organisations and with global partners. So I thank you and thank the Minister for allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other raised hands, so I think this concludes this session. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Apologies for that. So I don't know who was first. So Finland, sorry.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for this opportunity to be here. It's an honor. I would like to thank our critical friends for bringing up the teachers. I think the teachers are the key. And we in Finland, we have learned to cherish the autonomy of our teachers. And I think we need to trust and encourage our teachers at the field of global education. I also agree that impactful global citizenship education and the implementation of the declaration requires collaboration between different areas of the government and between stakeholders such as educators, researchers, youth, and of course civil society. It is really important to recognize synergies and to ensure that all education and learning actors together take the responsibility for building a more sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think the next is a colleague from Bulgaria.
Ministers, delegates, excellencies, dear colleagues and dear friends. I would like to jump and take this opportunity and jump in the interactive dialogue, especially as I won't be able to deliver an official statement on behalf of Bulgaria. In that regard, I would like to speak on behalf of the Ministry of Youth and Sports of the Republic of Bulgaria. In Bulgaria, we perceive global education as it is defined by all of us in the Dublin Declaration on Global Education to 2050. It refers to sustainability, it refers to development, it refers to human rights, it refers to peace, intercultural dialogue, and active citizenship. In addition to formal education, non-formal education and informal learning is a sustainable approach for acquisition, establishment, and building up key competencies by young people. In this respect, global education can play an active role for equipping young people with the knowledge, competencies, and soft skills, thus making them global citizens who are capable of addressing global challenges. We have just opened our ministry, our programs for new beneficiaries. Our goal is to reach all young people on national level, and especially those who are not or are rarely actively engaged in such projects, formal or non-formal education. For this, in the period until 2030, we are going to propose to the municipalities up to 10,000 people, schools up in municipalities up to 15,000 people, and informal youth groups to participate in our programs and apply with project proposals for up to 3.5 million euro yearly budget. Nearly half of it is dedicated to all forms of non-formal education and informal learning. So in order to be more effective in the way we design our programs in the field of non-formal education and informal learning, trainings and especially global education issues, the Ministry of Youth and Sports plans to more actively engage with GE. So thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much for that. And the next one to speak is the representative from the Council of Europe. No?
No, I think he's going to speak in the next.
And then it's Serbia. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. I think I was the last one to raise it, but it's okay if that's fine that I have a word now. Thank you very much. On behalf of the Republic of Serbia, I would like to congratulate on reaching to the point that we can today adopt a declaration. And please let me use a playful term. Let us release the genie from the bottle. I think it's not a coincidence that it's Jean that stands behind the whole thing. I would like to congratulate you and let this genie do the work now to do the implementation of the declaration. Congratulations to all and thank you.
Thank you very much. There's another call of intervention from the youth.
Yes, thank you so much. I'll be very, very brief. Just one point which I would like to make is that for us, endorsement, so you endorsing the declaration does not equal implementation. So what we need is you to endorse it, of course, but also to implement it. And we're just asking you to be brave. And for us, young people, as representatives, what youth organizations do is they represent platforms. We try to give a voice to the voiceless and to be as inclusive as possible. And I would like to yield the remainder of my time for our young colleague in the room. So please, you have the floor now and come here.
Okay, this is turning into an impromptu town hall, but okay. But please
we're all young, so it qualifies.
Please keep it short.
Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity. So, global awareness education is vital in global education systems. I believe the way education systems are in the world can be improved. People are of different learning styles, they're of different paces. In school, whether it be 25 or 30 people are held back, they're rushed. I think technology is the future of education. Technology has the opportunity to, if we have an e-learning platform, to have different learning styles, to have people to go at their own paces. People can't learn what they want to learn because we can't have the teachers first, or people might be so interested in a subject that they can't further learn in their education in a subject. With e-learning, I think the potential of students can truly be ignited, and that's what I hope to introduce to you today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't think there are any other calls that are missing right now. So thank you for this very lively exchange. And I would then yield the floor back to Minister Brophy.
Thank you very much, and I think that was a very interesting session. My former part now is to go to the heads of delegation to obviously seek views on the declaration. I just want to take a moment, if people don't mind, just to comment on the session we just had, because I think it was really interesting in so many ways. I'm a person, just to start off with, I hate that youth thing, young people or whatever it is. I started off at about 14, 15 years of age, getting involved in politics and getting involved in young issues and getting involved in the issues of the day. I've never regretted that. At the time, a lot of people said, you're mad, and why are you doing that? Why are you wasting your time? I'm sitting here today. I don't think I wasted my time. And I think it was a really important thing. I think it's absolutely vital that if you're going to have something like a declaration, and we're going to sit here as leaders, as politicians, as ministers, as heads of delegation, that we have that buy-in from the next generation. Because realistically, what we're doing is impacting your lives, is impacting the world you'll live in, and therefore your voice is absolutely critical. So thank you very much for the intervention on that side. In terms of our global critical friends and our contribution there, can I just say to you, I had a chance to be in Uganda. I saw firsthand the amazing work which teachers in your country were doing during that incredibly long shutdown. And you are right, unfortunately, it was a global record in terms of the number of years. But when you saw firsthand the desire of teachers to implement, to work, to bring something to their students, to make sure that even in a situation where the normal world couldn't exist, that they could, it was a really, really positive. So, I mean, it is a credit, not just I know to teachers in Uganda, to teachers around the world who dealt with that, which ties into the point that our final contributor was making on in terms of there is now a growing and an ever-growing role for how we blend traditional learning experience and how we work with the new experience of being able to have remote learning, being able to access the technology to do that. I think it's there. And my own background before entering national politics was local politics. So very much so in terms of sometimes the national politicians, well, you either get the flack or you get the praise. But you certainly at local level get the job of doing the heavy lifting and the implementing. So it is really good to hear that. And I think that crossover of 20 years of experience from the original declaration down in Maastricht to the current one, although like your good self, if I broke into song at this point, I would empty the room, so I would not attempt. But I think it is that skills of being a conductor and somebody who's loving music feeds in, I think, into education, feeds into everything. So it's really good. And it was part of the process of what we did here in Ireland in terms of consultation. We did very extensive consultation with our own National Youth Council in terms of getting their energy and input into our area. We worked on getting the views right across the board. The development of what we would call a national strategy on education for sustainable development, which was led by our Department of Education, both and our further higher education department. We worked closely on documents to ensure there was a policy coherence there. Overall, we aim very much in Ireland to embed GCE and ESD into our education systems. That's right across the board. That's into youth, adult education, into community education. We're focused on casting our net really as widely as we can on bringing new sectors of the community into the conversation on citizenship and on sustainability. My department, by the way, supports a range of strategic partners in terms of trying to strengthen that capacity of educators in both the formal and non-formal areas. We have actually launched an Innovation Challenge Fund to encourage fresh thinking, new ideas around the whole delivery of global citizenship education, and a research partnership with the Irish Research Council. So we're going to continue to do that. Next year we'll have hopefully a revitalised community initiative, a programme to support GCE in non-formal spaces in third level in higher education institutions. And we're going to continue to back that up with increased resources, which we'll dedicate to global citizenship. So I think that all feeds into what we're doing, but I think the manner in which the declaration was drafted, and it was mentioned, I think, in a very positive way, with really a very broad-based participation from government, from civil society, with a critical gaze, obviously, as we've mentioned, from not just Europe, it's internally, but externally. I think that's all incredibly significant. The more work you do, the more effort, and I know there was huge work over a long period of time in getting us to this point. We certainly didn't, I don't know who beautifully encapsulated the description of the 3 hours and here's the declaration, sign up now, but we never wanted to go down that way. We wanted to have something that when we would be here today, that we would have that incredible buy-in. So I think all of that has been very positive. And now, having talked for a very long time, I'm going to turn around and ask you all to be incredibly brief and concise. So apologies for that.